Hi, I'm Avram, and I have no idea yet what this channel is going to be about. But what I do know is what we're going to speak of today, which is the things I reckon you ought to know if you're planning to buy your first Rolex wristwatch. Now, Rolex is one of the select few brands that is recognizable to the general public, along with perhaps Omega, which is highly associated with the Bond franchise and with the moon landing, and maybe Casio, because it's everyone's first wristwatch and somehow it still costs €20 all these decades later. Right. So people have associations with the Rolex brand. Maybe they simply think of it as a highly capable timepiece. Maybe they associate it with wealth and success. Whatever the case, Rolex is in the ethos, it's in the Weltanschauung, it's in the collective unconscious. But only about 1 million people buy a Rolex every year, which means you may not have a cousin or friend to turn to guide you through this first experience. So I'll cover first the highly talked about online story of the waiting list. And I will preface this by saying that there is no waiting list as such. Rolex does not maintain a waiting list for customers. Rolex does not determine who gets given a watch, except in cases of pièces uniques that are commissioned by people like Ed Sheeran, Adam Levine, to get something special and unique to them. The authorized dealer in your area, however, has something of a pecking order with their customers. Just like any business, there are people who have been going there for years or decades or generations in many cases, and they bought lots of jewelry. Maybe they bought a nice Vacheron Constantin or a nice Patek Philippe the week before last, and now they're in the market for Daytona. And they're much more likely to get that Paul Newman dial Daytona than you are walking in off the street. So assuming that you don't have a hefty purchase history with your authorized dealer, there are a few things that you can do to stack the deck in your favor and make your waiting time a little bit less long, albeit you should still expect to do some amount of waiting. Tell them a compelling story. Come up with a reason that you want this watch. Talk about the connection with the watch. Be polite and well-dressed from the moment that you set foot in the store. Know that you're being evaluated, even as you sit there waiting for a sales representative to come and sit at your desk with you and to show you some watches. See if you can talk to the manager and at least glimpse that person just to establish contact. And a few days later, maybe send a follow-up email saying what a nice experience you had and how much you're looking forward to owning this watch. Don't be pushy. That is not the behavior of successful and busy people. And understand what the authorized dealer wants out of the relationship, which is they want repeat business with people who are going to give it to them. And they want people who are going to represent both their store and the brand well in their daily lives. So with that out of the way, the next thing that I wish I had known is that, okay, there are two ethos around Rolex watch ownership. There are people who have the use your tools ethos and they just beat the crap out of their watch. They'll, do drywalling and wear the watch. They don't have any qualms about tossing it into a bag. They believe that the watch is made to be an extension of themselves, or at least of their wrists, and get beaten up and given what's commonly called in the community as patina, but it's really just age, as the watch bags on. And that's absolutely fine, and I respect that. And then there are people on the other side of the spectrum who, put this watch down, set it down gingerly, etc., etc. So I'll say this. A highly polished, highly finished surface, like this 904 Oyster Steel, and I'll switch the view so you can see this 2025 Submariner. You can see it here. There you are. Right. Scratches. The clasp of the watch, which annoyingly is what's going to bang into your laptop computer at your desk or whatever you set your wrist on, scratches relatively easily. However, the crystal and the ferrochrome ceramic bezel around the crystal do not scratch. Essentially, it's almost impossible to scratch them. Right? The sapphire crystal is a synthetic sapphire with a hardness rating of 9 that's just below a diamond, which means that technically, if you were to take a steel knife and attempt to scratch the surface of the sapphire, you probably wouldn't succeed. And the same goes for the ferrochrome bezel, which is a hardness rating of 8. You shouldn't be able to scratch it with steel, right? What you can do is chip it or shatter it. So these surfaces are highly scratch resistant, but also quite brittle. So if you were to hit them against a doorknob or a door handle just the wrong way, or drop them off a table, you could very well shatter them. A broken bezel is one of the most frequent repairs, and it can be costly, right? So just keep that in mind, and then decide what kind of owner you want to be. There are many watch enthusiasts who talk about gifting themselves a watch, and that doesn't happen necessarily at point of purchase. That can happen weeks or months or years later when they decide, you know what, I'm not going to worry about the depreciation of value of this watch through use. I'm just going to use it and enjoy it, and this watch is for me. And that can be a powerful thing. So that's a little internal struggle that you might have to have with yourself at some point when you're a new watch owner, right? And maybe this is your first luxury watch. Okay, the next thing that I wish I had known was that my daily life is not going to be much different. The people around you will not change because you have a Rolex. So if you're buying it for that reason, which I wasn't, right? You're going to be disappointed. You may change. There's a joy that you'll have in wearing your new watch if indeed you like it. And it can elevate your daily experiences. This Submariner makes me feel a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more ready for anything. And that can be a powerful feeling. So concentrate on your own enjoyment and no one else's. And finally, the thing I wish most that I know before starting my watch journey is it's addictive. It's a rush to get that new watch. And you're going to be very, very tempted to go out and get something new and not take the time to enjoy the watch that you've just acquired. We all have this kind of hunter-gatherer instinct where we're either on the hunt, briefly enjoying the hunt, or we have this feeling of dissatisfaction because we don't have a current object of art. We're not tracking anything through the forest, right? So you have to combat that feeling and have the maturity to live with a watch, focus on the present moment. Because what is a watch? It's something that tells you the time. So enjoy the movement, enjoy the dial, enjoy the feeling of wearing the watch, enjoy the weight on your wrist, and really take the time to savor. It's a marathon. It's not a 100-meter dash. So keep that in mind. Right. And with that, I'll conclude the first video on this channel. Thank you.